Hello, Stephen White, Tripway89 here again. Well, I went to Sydney for Mardi Gras in Australia, and I didn't couldn't access my YouTube for the whole week. I was there for a week, and I wasn't able to do any reviews of anything. And I wanted to do a review of Star Trek Discovery getting its third season renewal, the news that was happening, the news about Picard, of course, the new episode of Discovery, the second part of the Orville, and Captain Marvel, and I've had to put it all off for a week, so it's probably not relevant anymore. But I'm doing it anyway just because. So, I'll start off with Discovery. Uh, Again, another decent episode. The overall quality has improved. Like I said, the tone and tension from season 2 and season 1 different, consistent, still problems, but almost enjoyable. So another episode starting off with a monologue from Sonequa Martin Green instead of Captain's log. Seems to be becoming a regular thing. It's not that bad, but I'd rather the Captain's log. I feel like they're trying to replace it. They do feel it's missing. So there's elements of the original format that were missing that they seem to be putting back in different ways. But first thing that bothered me, superficial thing, blue skies on Vulcan. Now, when you first arrive on Vulcan, they are having a storm. And so I thought, well, that explains that's how they're going to explain having all these interior shots in this regular, because they just filmed in a house somewhere. It doesn't even look anything like Vulcan architecture. They just, for 10 million an episode, they're looking pretty cheap. And I just remember looking at the pictures and thinking, couldn't they even put a filter on to make it look warm or orange or something to make it appear like it's Vulcan? Or are they just going to JJ it where they just filmed it in normal light and just forgot the fact that Vulcan is basically an orange planet with an orange sky and appears to be a warm desert sort of look all the time. So then they had a storm and I thought, well, that actually it's fine because that would change the light, the atmosphere, everything, the lightning. That'll be fine. And then, so see, they sort of had a problem. They sort of fixed it. They retconned a little bit just within the episode, so people wouldn't complain, but they could still save money on just having straight shots and shooting in a real location. And then what did they do later on? They did a CGI shot of some people arriving at a Vulcan monument cave. And what do they have? A bright blue sky in the background. They could easily have put a warm sky, not even a yellow or orange sky, but just a warm sky. No, just will not give us Star Trek fans any respect. It's like, no, we know it's supposed to be orange. We know it bothers you that we changed it in the film because we're trying to save money on a $150 million budget. First season, they made a bit of effort with it. They made it look like a sunsetty sort of sky, warm tones, it worked. So that's just a superficial, some of the little superficial things like that, you just can't miss them. They're just right there annoying you and slapping you in the face, even though they're not actually that important, but they just, you can't escape them. So that bugged the hell out of me, because it's not like they filmed in a location externally where they would have had to spend money on an effect to make it look like Vulcan. They could, yeah, like they created a problem. It's not that they had a problem and didn't fix it because they wanted to save money or didn't care. So yeah, I'll have to let that go, but as you can see, I'm having trouble with it. There's a bit of confrontation between Ash and Pike, but Pike finally exerts his command and to an extent goes a bit too far, and Ash is actually not the enemy he thinks he is, and his reactions to him, they undermine him a little bit, but he's not perfect, he's not supposed to be, so it's okay. He realises his faults and apologises to him by the end of the episode. This is not a big spoiler review or anything, it's just more my impression, just how I felt. Because they went out on a mission that an anomaly appears. There's a time anomaly, some problem. Basically, they go. Pike and Ash go into it in a shuttle. They get stuck. They're within it in 3 different time zones. Pike uses plasma to pinpoint his location. Stamets is beamed in because of his unique perception, thanks to the mycelial network. He is able to see through the time issues and that. He rescues them from their own probe, which comes back 500 years later, advanced, like something from the Matrix. It's interesting, but it's just sort of action we didn't really need. It doesn't really seem to lead to anything. It just seemed like one of those, we need an action scene, we need an action storyline. But yeah, it was okay. Initially, Pike sees the future and he thinks he sees him having to kill Ash, but it's actually he's shooting off the tendrils of the probe that came back like a Matrix tendril monster. But he doesn't see that. He sees Ash in the future, but not what is actually wrapped around in and fighting. So, I mean, it's interesting, but I hope it leads to something. I hope it's part of something, because it seems random and just action beat for the sake of it. Now we see a little bit into Spock and Michael's past again, where Spock teaches her the Vulcan salute. We find out that Amanda was in contact with Spock the whole time, and she's actually been hiding him for 2 days in a Vulcan monument. It had some Kartra element to it, so they wouldn't be able to track him, find him. But Michael convinces her to take her to Spock. Sarek follows. Sarek convinces them to hand him over to Section 31 or Starfleet, and either way he ends up in Section 31. And of course we know they are going to destroy him and destroy his mind and use some sort of mind ripper like the Klingons used in A Round of Mercy in the original Star Trek series. And I'm just watching it going, how can Burnham be this stupid to trust them with... How does she not know? Because they all apparently know what Section 31 is. But eventually Georgiou saves the day, and she basically says, I'm going to help you break him out, stage a fight with you, it'll look like you escaped, I won't get in trouble. The guy I'm trying to undermine and take control of, the guy, take power from, the one who's running Section 31, she figured she could undermine him if he let you escape. So they work together. Pretty decent action sequence. They escape. And Spock basically wants to go to Talos 4 because apparently in this timeline, which I saw in a meme on Facebook, we are actually a couple of years after the Cage. A lot of people didn't think the Cage had happened yet and that Discovery was before the Cage, but it's actually a few years after. So Spock wants to go back to Talos. He gave Michael a clue with some backwards coordinates, and she worked that out, of course. She wasn't too Mary Sue this episode. She wasn't even that annoying. She was concerned. She was trying to fix problems. I didn't think about that, but because she didn't actually piss me off this episode. So that was interesting when I think about it. And yes, I guess, because I tried to explain to a friend of mine who is a Star Trek fan but hates the original Star Trek, has never watched the original Star Trek, doesn't like it, but yet he's a Star Trek fan. I guess if he likes Next Gen and Voyager, he's still a Star Trek fan, but when you don't like the original Star Trek and you call yourself a Star Trek fan, I have problems. So I explained to him what Talos was, and that Spock probably wanted to go back because his mind's a mess, and the Talosians can go into his mind and pull out whatever they need and help him sort out whatever is happening with the Red Angel, with the time, whether they're now going to have them have some influence on past and future, because they obviously can send people to their past and their imagined future, but as far as I know, they have no power of time, so they must just be there for their mind powers to help Spock. So, and Arium, we even don't know what she's, cyborg, android, we don't know what she is, because her character has been not explored in the show. Apparently downloads something from the probe, the Matrix probe that came from 500 years from the future that they managed to defeat. It was downloading all the information, they cut it off. It apparently has downloaded something into her, she's been infected. So obviously that'll come up later. So I guess that action sequence is going to lead to something and pay off. And I think I've covered all the points. Georgiou helps Burnham escape. We know she's just doing that to have something owing to her and to undermine the supervisor. we find out Spock was dyslexic, and he had problems learning, and he had a much more difficult life, and there was a lot more politics between difficulties between Amanda and Sarek, and nothing that really undermines the characters, nothing that can't really be explained. It's a decent episode. There seems to be more consistent. The first season was up and down, backwards and forwards. This one had one episode that sort of stepped back, but the rest have been fairly consistent. I'm feeling a bit more confident. I'm enjoying them more. I just don't want them to fuck up Talos. I don't want them to... I've already seen the Talosians. They have larger heads, but they don't have that frail giant head sort of look. They've got a large bridge, and it's just like, you don't need to retcon things that actually work. Just make them look a bit more better quality. It's all you have to do. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Like the Talosians worked. I don't know why they've changed the makeup. 25%, of course. They can't make them look exactly like they do without paying for the license. I keep forgetting that. So, yep. 25%. Okay. Well, I'm going to leave it there. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you enjoyed the episode. I hope I'm not the only person who feels it's getting better, and it's almost watchable now. I hated the first season. The second season is okay. I'm hoping it keeps changing, keeps getting better, because it's still not there yet, but it's made leaps and bounds. So thank you for watching, and I will be watching the next episode pretty soon, and then the Orville and the Michael Jackson documentary, which I'm going to have to talk about as well. So, and of course Captain Marvel. Okay, thank you.